Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How Nonprofits Are Leveraging Technology to Achieve Greater Impact. I'm Sarah Novak, Marketing Manager here at LVMC Technology Solutions, and I'm just going to go over some quick housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees have been muted. And if you have any technical difficulties, please let us know using the chat panel. We will be taking questions throughout today's webinar, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the webinar, and we'll make sure we either answer during the webinar or after the webinar, we'll make sure to follow up. You can do this through the Q&A panel in WebEx, and if you need any help with that, please let us know. We'll also be sending out the recording for this session in a few days' time. So today we have Kenneth Sims and Melissa Powell who will be presenting. So thanks again for joining us. And Kenneth, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. You can go on to the next slide if you'd like. Yes, my name is Kenneth Sims, and I'm responsible for our Intacct practice. I've been here at LVMC Technology Solutions for about 19 years, implementing financial solutions for our clients. And I've been with Intacct I've been with LVMC for as long as we've had our Intacct practice, which is about 11 years. And so we've been a long-term Intacct partner. We are a top 5 national partner for Intacct. And it's been a really great product for us. And we've to date implemented or supported over 400 clients running the Intacct platform. So certainly have a lot of expertise on our team over the years with Intacct, along a lot of different industries, particularly in the not-for-profit space that Melissa is going to speak to a little bit in terms of her background, as well as when she goes to the demonstration. So we're looking forward to talking to you today about that. So Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Kenneth. My name is Melissa Powell, and I work as a sales engineer with LVMC Technology Solutions, primarily demonstrating the solution and doing education around the solution. One of my specializations is in nonprofit. I am an accountant by nature with 12 years of accounting experience in both public accounting and corporate accounting, and my business degree is with a specialization in nonprofits. So I've done accounting in particular for nonprofits, sat on nonprofit boards, conducted nonprofit budgeting and things like that. And now I go ahead and I put those efforts towards doing nonprofit implementations and demonstrating the solution to our nonprofit clients. So we're excited today to show you what Sage Intacct can do for nonprofits.
Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate that. Just briefly, as far as an agenda, I know that some of the folks that may be on the webinar today are not existing LVMC clients, so I'm just going to provide a brief introduction on that, and then we'll do a brief Sage Intacct overview and talk a little bit more about it at a kind of a high level. And then we'll talk about some of the trends that we see in the not-for-profit industry in terms of your ability to accelerate your mission as a not-for-profit. And then, of course, Melissa will be doing the demonstration. We'll have a testimonial from one of our existing not-for-profit customers that we'll have a little bit later this morning or this afternoon. And then some discussions about next steps and how we'll wrap things up there towards the end. So Sarah, if you'll go on to the next slide. So LVMC has been around for about 26 years. So from a technology company standpoint, I think that's a pretty good number. We've been doing this for quite a while. Helping our clients with technology. In addition to financial solutions that we help our clients implement, we're a full service technology company. We have network engineers and software developers that help our clients in those particular areas, either in outsourcing their internal IT functions or in developing ground up applications or integrations that we need to work for our clients. We also have a team of project managers that helps us and supports our clients in implementing very large projects, which many of our financial solution projects would be assigned a project manager. So we have a project management team as well. We are an affiliate of a top 50 accounting and business consulting firm in the U.S. We do have offices in both Tennessee and in North Carolina in our Knoxville, Nashville, and Charlotte offices. And we are a nationally recognized partner, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as it relates to some of our other products here in a moment. But we've been doing this for a while, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you today about how we can help you as you consider moving to the cloud as it relates to your financial solution. So Sarah, you can go to the next slide. So as you can see here, we have quite a few awards and lists that we're on relative to our place in the Intacct and in the technology market. particularly I'm focused on Sage Intacct there in the middle. We are a Sage Intacct Premier Partner. We are a top 5 national partner for Sage Intacct. We've been with them, as I said before, for about 11 years. That number is probably also almost up to 400 implementations and support clients that we have now running the Sage Intacct product. So suffice it to say that we do believe that we have the expertise to assist you, and especially our financial customers and clients, with helping you take advantage of technology as it relates to your back office financial and accounting solutions. So Sarah, you can go on to the next slide. So I just want to talk briefly about Sage Intacct, and in particular about it being a cloud platform. I think it's significant that Sage Intacct was developed as a cloud-first solution. In other words, it was never an on-premise solution that was repurposed for the cloud. So from the very beginning, Sage Intacct was made to be a cloud solution. Over the last 5 or 7 years, certainly a term you might hear quite a bit is digital transformation. And digital transformation is made up of 3 components, the cloud being one of those, the other 2 being big data and the Internet of Things. And so we're going to focus, I won't have time to go into the whole digital transformation story, but we're certainly going to be talking about elements of that today. And I want to focus particularly on the fact that Sage Intacct is a cloud solution in 3 specific areas that I think will hopefully give you some insights into why we believe Sage Intacct might be a good solution for you. The number one thing or characteristics of a cloud-based solution is that you're able to access it via the internet. So obviously this has implications in terms of companies that have resources, whether those resources need to work remotely, from home, in geographically dispersed areas, or on any device they may have that they need to have access. So whether you're in the office or whether you're at home, wherever you might be, you would have access to Sage Intacct if you have access to the internet. This is obviously a very big component of cloud platforms and why they help companies be more successful, especially in times of pandemic, which we've all experienced over the last several years. The second thing is that Intacct is a multi-tenant application. Now that is a kind of a technical term. Basically what it means is there's a single instance or version of the software that supports all the Intacct clients. So every Intacct client is on the same version of the software. So the significance of that is that you no longer have to worry about upgrading your software. Many clients who are on on-premise solutions are having to go through major upgrades, maybe every 18 to 24 months, that may include hardware upgrades and software upgrades, and these things can be very expensive and they can be very disruptive to your business. Because all Sage Intacct is on the same instance of software, that's no longer an issue because the vendor is responsible for upgrading that solution. And that's really the third component that I want to speak to, and that is that the solution is hosted by Sage Intacct. And that has a couple of implications. One is that you no longer have to do those upgrades because Intacct provides releases on a quarterly basis of new enhancements to their solutions, which means that you're able to keep up with the pace of change and the things you need for your business because you're not having to wait 18 or 24 months for those upgrades. You're getting those every quarter, 4 times a year. The second aspect of that that's important is that Sage Intacct is able to provide security to their system that as an individual company, you couldn't afford to provide for your own financial solutions that may be on-premise. And so you're able to, because of the magnitude of people that are using Sage Intacct, you're able to take advantage of security that you wouldn't be able to afford yourself, which certainly in our days and times today is important as we consider all the different cybersecurity risks that are out there, and the security that Sage Intacct, being a cloud solution, can bring to the table should certainly give you peace of mind. And the last component you kind of see here in the map that you see in front of you, and that is that Sage Intacct is built to be an open system in the sense that it can connect to many other specific systems that may be best of breed solutions for a particular thing that you might want to accomplish. So for instance, in the not-for-profit world, this may be a donation system or a CRM or Salesforce system where it may be managing your relationships with your donors and maybe even money flowing through that from a donation standpoint. So we're able to connect Intacct in a very easy manner because of the open APIs and the open systems that it provides us. So these are some key components of why we believe that Sage Intacct is a good solution for our clients, especially those clients that are running legacy on-premise solution, whether it's QuickBooks or some of the Microsoft products or any of the others that may be legacy on-premise solution, to be a good solution for you to look into. Go to the next slide, please. So from a leadership standpoint, Sage Intacct is certainly recognized as a leader in the marketplace in terms of a financial solution. As you see there on the left of the screen here, the AICPA, they did literally write the book on accounting, the accounting rules and regulations that most every company should be following in the United States. And Intacct has been the preferred provider of the AICPA since we've been an Intacct partner, which is about 11 years or so. So certainly a big recognition of the core functionality that you're going to see today. And many of the things that Intacct has done over the years are certainly a good fit for the not-for-profit industry. And these are some things that Melissa is going to be showing you today. The other one that I just want to call out is the #1 in customer satisfaction. For the last 6 years, Intacct has been the leader in customer satisfaction for mid-market financial solutions. This course is a great honor for that, because this obviously means a lot. And it's primarily in 2 areas that we see this customer satisfaction. #1 is its ability to meet the business needs of our clients, including the not-for-profit industry. And #2, it's the direction the product's going, the fact that there is a strategic vision, there's these constant enhancements that are happening, and there's clients are finding that very helpful as they continue to try to meet their ever-changing business needs. So certainly, Intacct is recognized as that leader in the marketplace. All right, next slide, Sarah. And then for the 5th year in a row, Gartner obviously is somebody that's kind of the gold standard, recognized as the gold standard for software assessment and analysis and rankings. And for the 5th year in a row, Sage Intacct received the highest score in the 2021 Gartner Critical Capabilities for Cloud Core Financial Management Suites for mid-sized, large, and global enterprises. So quite a mouthful, but suffice it to say that it does rank ahead of many others that you may be aware of in the marketplace, and certainly establish itself as a leader in this respect. All right, go on to the next slide. So in early 2022, which was just a few months ago, Intacct published the results of a survey that it had done with 900 nonprofit leaders. The majority of these organizations, almost 85% of those 900 companies that participated, were mid-sized non-for-profit organizations, which means they were less than $24 million annually. And so I just thought this information here was very helpful as we kind of set the stage for some things that Melissa is going to be showing you later here. And so this first slide here says, when it comes to your financial management accounting software, which of the following functionalities is a priority to your organization? And as you look through these various items here, and I'm not going to necessarily read through here, almost every one of these is going to be something that Melissa is going to be speaking to today in terms of how Sage Intacct can address these things that your peers in the market are saying are most important to them, particularly around its ability to automate your financial reporting, the flexibility it has around managing your multiple funds and grants and things of that nature, the cloud-based aspect that we talked about before, and the ability to integrate with some of your best-of-breed solutions that are in the marketplace. And then its abilities to manage those KPIs and provide visibility and transparency to your information in ways that were not possible perhaps with your current solutions. So certainly some key areas that we think that Intacct very well addresses, and that Melissa will be kind of pointing to today during her demonstration. Next slide, please. The next thing I wanted to call out here was this one here about what's the role of the finance team in helping to build a compelling story of mission impact. As we're all aware, it's very important for a not-for-profit and from a donation standpoint to be able to communicate clearly its mission and how it's accomplishing that mission. And many times the ability to do that is tied to how you can make data that's visible within your financial and accounting system visible in ways that help establish that story and tell that story of mission. One of the things that we have found in our experience over the years is that finance leaders are being called on increasingly to become not only the digital transformation leaders of their organization, but are leading and providing input into a lot of the strategic decisions that those companies or not-for-profit organizations are making. And in order to do that, you've got to have your hands on that information. And so again, telling the story of how Intacct can help you in your own process of telling your story and ensuring the donations continue to flow because people understand that story and are compelled by that story to contribute to the organization. All right, next slide. So certainly we believe that Intacct has solved some of the biggest challenges of the not-for-profit industry, and that's what we're going to be speaking to today. I'm just going to highlight a few areas here, and then Melissa will be hitting on some of these later on or touching on some of this as she continues to go through her demonstration. But obviously over the last few years, there has been last several years, there's been some changes as it relates to revenue recognition for not-for-profits. FASB has come out with some new rules and regulations around that in terms of certain scenarios by which you can recognize revenue at particular points in time in that revenue cycle. And Intacct has some very strong functionality in this particular area to help clients automate that process without having to use spreadsheets or things of that nature to manage that. The second area that we know is a challenge for not-for-profits is around allocating your expenses or your expend across perhaps your grants, across your different parts of your organization, where you need to be able to spread that out in ways and not, again, do that in a manual way outside the system, but do that in an automatic way. And Intacct has some very strong automatic allocation functionality that we've deployed quite successfully for many of our not-for-profits who have that desire or need to do that in order to get everything into the right bucket so that you can properly kind of gauge how you're doing across your not-for-profit organization. Thirdly, these last two kind of moving into the reporting area we talked about before is really being able to make visible and make transparent your data in ways that you've not been able to do before. Intacct has out-of-the-box standard NFP industry reports that you can use to help jumpstart the different ways in which you need to present that data for your boards and for the different organizations that you report to, as well as the operational and back office reports you need to kind of manage the day-to-day operations of your not-for-profit. In addition, Intacct has some strong capabilities as it relates to dashboarding and being able to have visibility into your KPIs in ways that, again, help you to tell that story, that mission story that we were talking about previously. And Melissa will be highlighting some of that as she goes through her demonstration. So again, we're really happy that you joined us today. We're really looking forward to an opportunity to present to you Sage Intacct and how it may how it should be able to support you as a not-for-profit organization. So Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kenneth. So as we go into the demonstration portion of Intacct, you can go to the next slide, Sarah. And the first thing we just want to talk about is the fact that the structure of Intacct is what is so important, that allows the user to be able to produce reports and dashboards that nonprofits can then have the data that they need to be able to make key decisions. So Intacct uses a structure of a natural GL account number, so asset, liability, revenue, expense, with a combination of a dimension. And a dimension can represent a who, a what, or a where. Things within your who dimensions might be things like donors, members, or constituents, vendors, employees in your organization as well. Where would be things like a location or an entity, a program or cost center or department, and even a project or grant. And the what might be a thing like a certain item or service line, or even your restrictions, which is the class dimension in Intacct, which will indicate with donor restriction or without donor restriction. And as we go into Intacct, you'll see how the structure of this enables us to see our key metrics within our reporting and dashboards. So I will go ahead, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go into the demonstration section. All right, are we able to see Intacct right now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, so as we walk through this demonstration together, you're going to see several aspects of Intacct and the different types of things that you can accomplish with the structure of your GL account and your dimensions within Intacct. So we're going to start off here with a sample of some nonprofit metrics that have been put on a dashboard. So this dashboard right here really hones in on stewardship. So you can see up at the top, I have 4 cards here. These are called performance cards. Performance cards can be things that are statistical information or financial information. So both of these types of data can be captured in your accounting system. So things like clients served, meals served, volunteer hours are typically outside of the normal financial data, but because those things are important and they impact mission, they can also be used in computations that we might want displayed on our reports and our dashboards. Intacct gives you the ability to put this non-financial data into the system. So we can see here just at a glance that our client served is actually down as we're comparing to prior year, and that our volunteer hours are also down as compared to prior year. So quickly being able to see this type of information lets us hone in on decisions that we might need to make within the organization to be able to improve these type of numbers. Now you can compare to prior year or prior month. You decide the comparison, and comparisons can be based on a period or on a specific goal. Okay. We can also see that statistical information can be used in our reports and in computations in our reporting. So down here we have expenditures by program. These are our programs, which is a dimension over here in our columns. So we can see we have our expenses, which is our GL accounts, and these are being expanded out by our different programs, and then a total over here at the end. But we also have an indicator down here using a statistical account for our clients served. And then we have a computation taking our program expenditures and dividing it by the client served to give us a cost per client. Now, if you're thinking about cost per client as a nonprofit, and of course this can be done with other metrics as well, just think about what type of decisions you could make if you were able to actually know this type of information within your accounting system. You can also see that there's visual indicators on dashboards as well. So again, as we're looking at clients served, we see our total up here, but down here we actually have clients per program. And as I hover over each area, I can see how many clients are actually being served within each program itself. Now, dashboards in themselves can also be user specific. You can have multiple dashboards that might represent certain outcomes, certain roles, which would be users, or even compliance type dashboards. So another example of a dashboard, here's a fundraising efficiency dashboard. Okay. And again, visual indicators such as thumbs up, thumbs down, red arrows, green arrows. There's also happy faces and smiley faces, but visual indicators are really able to give us the type of information we need to go ahead and address the things that we might need to address with just a glance. So if we look at this dashboard, we immediately see that our fundraising cost per donor has increased compared to the prior year. Okay. Our number of giving donors has actually went down compared to the prior year. And our active donor ratio has also went down compared to the prior year. So as we look at this, just think about if you were a nonprofit and you're making fundraising decisions in the types of fundraising events that you're doing. Okay, so let's say that this nonprofit, they decided to go ahead and increase some more type of high-end fundraising events, things that actually do cost a little more. And hoping the result would be more money to the organization. Okay, so as we can see, if we look at our fundraising cost per donor, if that was our decision, well, we are going to actually expect that this is going to go up. But then we would also want to probably expect that our giving donors is going to go up. Now, we do see that our number of major donors went up. So another type of information that might be useful was if we split this fundraising cost donor per donor out by major donors against normal giving donors, okay, just to make sure that our fundraising cost that is being raised coordinates with this number over here. So those are the types of things you can do with dashboards. So it's going to give you the ability to be able to make decisions in the organization and then put key metrics on the dashboards and reports that are going to tell you if the decisions you're making in the organization are making the impact that you expected them to make. Okay. Now dashboards are also drillable. So we can see here that our contributions by campaign, we have this broken out between 4 different campaigns here. And if we want to actually see the information, we can go ahead and drill into it. So we can see our total contributions for Healthy Tomorrows. And you can actually see that this information is coming in through a fundraising system. So fundraising system weekly receipts. So one of the things Kenneth talked about was the fact that Sage Intacct is able to integrate with outside systems. And that is what this is doing here. This is an outside fundraising system that's being used within this organization. And so the weekly receipts from that system are being fed into Sage Intacct, which then gives us the live data we need that will come into our reports and our dashboards. Now, the information that is drillable is also available to multiple members of your organization. You can even give dashboards and reports to people who are not accounting users. There is another type of user in Intacct that is a read-only user. So people can actually have access to this information, be able to drill down and see the actual numbers to things. You might have also noticed the filters up here at the top, okay? So we have an as of date. We also have some of our different dimensions here, okay? So we have some funds and some grouping of funds as well. We also have our different projects and grants and grouping of projects and grants. And we have a customer filter. So any type of filters on those different dimensions that are available that might be important to this particular dashboard can be put here and then applied. And then of course the data is going to change depending on that filter that you used. Okay. Now you can also see again, drillable information can give access to people to get the type of information that they need. So for example, if somebody outside the organization that's not a typical accounting user wants to know what this revenue other is, and again, they are a read-only type of user in the system and you have given them access to this dashboard, again, they can go ahead and drill down into the information. They obviously cannot do anything to change the information, but they can access the information to see what actually makes up this data. So they can drill all the way down into these numbers. They can even drill all the way into the original entry. Now, as you can see here in the entry, this really shows you the use of the natural account number and the combination of dimensions. Okay, so this over here is our natural account number. Again, that's going to be your assets, liabilities, revenues, or expenses in combination with things like the fund or location. The restriction type, whether it's unrestricted, temporarily restricted, or permanently restricted, any department or program that is indicated. They've also indicated a site on this information and a project or grant. So these combinations in the time of the actual transaction entry are what is creating our reporting in our dashboards. Now, another type of a dashboard here is an example of a controller dashboard. So this is more of a user-based dashboard. So controller dashboard typically tends to be a little more heavy on the financial reports. So as you can see, we do have more financial reports on this dashboard. But even in the financial reports, you can still use visual indicators. So you can see we have some coloring schemes going on here. Okay, additional coloring schemes, even up arrows and down arrows to have visual indicators of whether something is trending up or down for this particular report. So even if something is report heavy, we can still have visual indicators that can go ahead and give somebody the information they need to kind of draw your eye and your attention to something that you might need to address. Now, one of the things Kenneth did mention was that Sage Intacct does come with standard out-of-the-box reports. And the system does. There are several nonprofit standard out-of-the-box reports that it comes with. But even in that sense, if there are not all the reports that you need, and you need additional reports, we are going to look at one just to show you the actual financial report writing wizard, so you can see how easy it is to go ahead and adjust reports as needed. Let me click that, sorry. So let's look at this statement of activities. So here's a statement of activities here. And this is actually being split out by initiatives. and then it has the total at the end. And you can see that this doesn't have our GL account number, it just has our GL account name. Okay, it has the change in net assets above, and then it goes into our revenue, and then of course starts going into our expenses towards the bottom of the report. So there might be several reports in Intacct that you find that are pretty close to what you need, but maybe you want to make some adjustments. So I just want to touch on really quickly what the financial report writer looks like and how easy it is to make some adjustments. Okay, so you've seen the current display. So let's say one of the things we wanted to adjust was that we wanted to not just see account name, but we wanted to see GL account number and name. If I go ahead and flip this over and do preview, I can see the change immediately. So I can see what I changed and how this report looks now that I have indicated that change immediately, even before I decide to save. Okay, so if I cancel out of this now, it's just going to keep it as the account name, but at least I still got to see that preview. Okay, let's also say we wanted to go ahead. Right here we have our account number and name, and we have our actuals in this column. And our actuals, as you can see, they were being expanded by our different funds. Let's say we didn't want to see funds, we actually wanted to see departments instead. I'm going to set that and preview again, and we will see how our information changes. Okay, so this, in just the click of a button, changed it from a column for every fund to a column for every department. I even have a no department here, and then I have an all department. So I did not have to make individual columns for each of these. I was able to create these columns with just the push of a button. So this is very important because this makes reporting very easy and Intacct. And you can see this is just a wizard where you basically just go through the different areas over here and set things. So this report also was in detail, it was really expanded. Okay, so one of the other things, if we want to just kind of condense that down, we don't want it as long where people are seeing each individual GL account. We can go ahead and switch that to summary. And again, we'll preview so we can see what it looks like. And it went ahead and condensed that down. Okay, now even with condension, I can still go ahead and expand on something in particular to get down to the GL account number and then be able to drill down. As you see, anything blue is hyperlink, which means it's drillable. So I can drill down all the way to the original transaction. So every time I see blue, I can keep going. Okay, there's my original entry for that. Okay, so Intacct gives you the ability to go ahead and produce financial reports and dashboards easily with a click of a button. You also see you have the duplicate feature here. So again, if something is pretty close to what you want, but you just want to tweak a couple things like what we did just now, you're able to duplicate, name it something else, and then make those quick changes and save that report. So a lot of the standard reports that the system comes with are going to be, able for you to use, but even if they're close, we can make some quick adjustments and get them to where you need them. Now, all of the items that we have shown today, as you can see on our dashboards and our reports, they are in line with tracking our mission and tracking our vision. So this gives us the ability to ensure that we are accomplishing our mission, that we can prove such, and that we can make decisions in real time that are critical to the performance of our organization. Next, within the webinar, we're going to go ahead and introduce Park Cities Baptist Church, and they are going to provide a testimonial of how Sage Intacct and this type of information has allowed them to make key decisions within their organization.
I first implemented Intacct when I was finance director at Lovers Lane United Methodist Church. That experience was amazing to see what could be accomplished by putting your technology in the cloud. My name is Lamar Metters. I'm the finance director at Park Cities Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. Why hesitate? Moving to the cloud has tremendous advantages. There are cost savings, there's better security, more flexibility. You're mobile. When we had to shut down because of COVID, but we were all able to work seamlessly from home because it's in the cloud. And it's been a great change for this organization. We have much more flexibility. We save a lot of money. The security is better. I just can't speak highly enough of what moving to the cloud will do for an organization. We have used and abused all of the dimensions, but what that's given us is greater insight into how we spend our resources. Our month-end close used to be quite laborious, and it took usually at least 10 business days, if not more, to produce the monthly results. Now I can have them out the door in no more than 4 business days, if not less, just depending on the volume for that month. This is the second organization that I've brought to LVMC. Our implementation went very well with the consultant that we were assigned. So I recommend LVMC as a partner to anybody that's asking. The cost savings are there. Your IT group doesn't have to support servers to host your software. I just think it's a great move for any organization. It gives you so much more flexibility, so much more security. Everybody has so much more insight into how we spend our resources. Anytime somebody's looking at any of this technology, I highly recommend LVMC.
So I hope you've been able to see through the demonstration today and through the testimonial from Park Cities Baptist Church that Sage Intacct is really trying to solve nonprofits' top internal frustration. So some of the internal frustrations that we've covered today are manual and time-consuming reporting. Sage Intacct is solving that with standard out-of-the-box reports and a financial report writer that is user-friendly. Having inefficiencies and delays due to multiple systems, we don't want that. Sage Intacct allows for seamless integration with outside systems that can bring financial data and statistical data right into your accounting system. A lack of real-time visibility into key metrics and performances is really going to hinder your organization. Through dashboards created for specific users, outcomes, or compliance, through the use of statistical data, and through data coming in from other integrated systems, it's always going to give you the real-time information you need to make key decisions. Next. Now, the lack of process automation and organizational efficiency, integrations, we never want you to enter data twice. Gain efficiency through the use of dimensions and statistical data. And there are other nonprofit features that are very customizable within the system, such as automatic allocations, grant billing, restriction release, and revenue recognition. So if you have any of these scenarios that you are interested in seeing a custom demonstration for, we would be happy to do that for you. Please feel free to reach out to us. And Kenneth, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks, Melissa. So obviously the next question when we get to this point in the webinar is, so where do I go from here? And I believe the things we have listed here and from our own experience, I want to share some things that maybe help you kind of figure out how, where you go from here. So the first thing that we definitely recommend is that before you just jump in and start trying to implement technology, because we should never implement technology just for technology's sake. We want to make sure that's within the context of your own individual business and market, goals and objectives. So I think it's important as you consider your technology needs that you do navigate your organization and talk to other stakeholders within your company to understand where you are in your market, what you're trying to do from a business or a not-for-profit standpoint, your mission, and align those things, and then begin to look for technology to help support those particular initiatives. So we think that's obviously step number one. We definitely want to get ready and then aim and then fire, and not don't do that in reverse fashion. The second item is similar to that in the sense that we definitely recommend collaboration and communication within your organization. Certainly in most cases, your financial system doesn't sit on an island by itself. There's other solutions that it might need to work with. We've talked about some of those when we were talking about Intacct and its cloud, the cloud kind of journey as it looks to integrate with other solutions. Certainly, Intacct can bring a lot of that to the table out of the box, but there are many times other marketplace products that may be appropriate to integrate with that. So it's important to look at your entire process from beginning to end. And as you look at those solutions, to discuss that and have in mind what that strategic roadmap might need to look like for you in terms of bringing on new technology. And with that, the third step here, assess your technology requirements. Once that basic information is known about your goals and objectives, this is where a trusted advisor like LVMC can come to play, where you can sit down and we can kind of discuss what your particular needs might be, what are the challenges you're running into, and we can help you build that strategic roadmap. What things we can bring on board sooner rather than later, what are some things we can wait on, prioritize that, and determine which technology would be a good fit for you. It's also important to think of cloud solutions as your on-ramp to innovation. Again, along the theme of not implementing technology just for technology's sake, we want to make sure that when we're doing these things, it's part of a plan, that we have a purpose for what we're implementing, and you're comfortable with what those objectives need to be. What is the target we're trying to hit? And the great thing about cloud solutions is because they're in the cloud and they're hosted by the vendor, and we don't have to have a lot of hardware or other things in place to support that, we're able to get started with those projects very quickly. And an average project for a not-for-profit could be as short as 90 days from a kickoff meeting to go live. And so that means it's not, there's a very speedy return on your investment as it relates to that. It also means you're not taking up your entire 6 months or a year trying to implement these solutions, particularly on the financial side, and that we can accomplish those things in a reasonable manner, in an efficient manner. The other thing, we had the Park City story here talking about their use of Intacct, and in fact, she brought Intacct from another church that she worked with and implemented a second time. Is that it's important to talk to peers, other companies that are similar to yourself, and how they're proceeding along their digital transformation or financial transformation journey. What are some of the challenges they've run into? What are some solutions they've implemented that have really helped them? And getting that information together can, of course, continue to help you figure out and assess what the right next steps are for you as well. And then lastly, keep the big picture in mind. It's just as easy to put in a lot of cloud-based solutions and still have a disparate, not very efficient or effective integrated, set of solutions as it is to do that on-premise, in the on-premise world. And so, again, going back to the planning aspect of this, we want to make sure that we're looking at your entire enterprise and architecture, where you are today, where you want to be tomorrow, what does that strategic plan need to look like, and what's the best way for us to get there to make sure that all those pieces and parts can fit together in a seamless way so you can get the efficiencies you need, and more importantly, you can get the solutions to meet what your goals and objectives are and be able to see that you're actually meeting those goals and objectives. So these are just some thoughts of how you can proceed forward. And certainly if you have any questions, as has been mentioned previously, we're here to help with that. And along that line, in addition to the financial solutions that we provide, as I mentioned before, we are a full service technology company. And there's many other things that you may be struggling with from a technology perspective that you may be looking for. And these are some of the other services that we provide. As I mentioned, our network engineering team will be able to help you focus in areas such as remote IT and services support. So if you need help completely outsourcing your internal IT function, or you just need help with particular aspects of that, we can help you with that. We obviously can help you with cybersecurity and monitoring and protection against those risks and threats we talked about earlier for your computing platforms that you'll have within your business. This is certainly something that's on the forefront of everyone's mind today, especially given the activities in Ukraine and Russia and some of the cyber attacks that everybody's expecting to come as a result of that. We can actually help you with cloud computing and storage and hosting. Maybe there's some on-premise solutions that you can't move to the cloud right now, but you need to have that hosted somewhere other than on your own servers. You no longer want to be responsible for being an information processing center, and you want to offload that to the cloud resources. We can help you with that. And then we can also help you, as I mentioned earlier, in that transformation journey and providing advisory services to help you get there. And then lastly, in terms of customer relationship management or donation management, if you're looking for solutions that can help you get a hold of and manage your donor database and how that process might work in terms of keeping track of that and reaching out to those donors, engaging with those donors, and be able to manage and track that. Certainly the CRM application, Dynamics 365 CRM and Salesforce are some options that we can help you with if you're interested in needing some assistance in that area. So again, thank you for joining us today, and I'll turn it back over to Sarah to kind of wrap us up.
All right, thank you so much, Kenneth and Melissa, for sharing such great information. I don't see any questions right now, but I know we've covered a lot of content today. So if something comes up after this webinar, please reach out to us. You know, we're able to talk to you in your unique situation at your organization, and would be glad to talk to you and what kind of solution would be best for you. So thanks again for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.